Hello everyone, we'll be talking about the male and female urethra, its description, its parts, and hypospadia. So first we have the female urethra. It's broken up into three parts. The intramural part, which is running through the urinary bladder wall. You have the pelvic part, which is the longest section, and it is located between the urinary bladder wall and the pelvic floor, as you can see in the diagram. Then you have the perineal part, which passes through the perineal muscles, again, which you can see over here, as well as the urogenital hiatus of the levator ani. Okay, so those are about the parts. Then you're going to have the internal urethral orifice and the external urethral orifice. The internal urethral orifice is located inside the urinary bladder, and the external urethral orifice protrudes as the urethral papilla in the vestibule of the vagina, around 2 to 3 centimeters behind the glands of the clitoris. Then you have the neuro supply, which is the vesical plexus. You're going to have the blood supply. So for the different parts, you have different blood supplies. So the intramural part will be supplied by the inferior vesical artery. Then you have the pelvic part supplied by the uterine and vaginal arteries. And then you have the perineal part, which is supplied by the internal pudendal artery. One thing to note is that all of them come from the internal iliac artery. Same way, you have the venous drainage. So the intramural part is drained by the vesical venous plexus, which goes via the vesical veins to the internal iliac vein. Then you have the pelvic part, which is drained by the vaginal venous plexus via the vaginal veins into the internal iliac vein again. And then you have the perineal part, which is drained by the internal pudendal vein back into the internal iliac vein. Then finally, you have the lymphatic drainage, which is through the paravesical nodes into the common internal and external iliac nodes. Then you have the male urethra. Now, the male urethra can be broken down into prostatic urethra, the intermediate part, and the spongy urethra. Okay, so the prostatic urethra, okay, it goes through the prostate. It starts with the internal urethral orifice, and it consists of a urethral crest, which are basically ridge-like projections within the urethra. You have the seminal colliculus, okay, and this contains the opening for the ejaculatory duct as well as the prostatic utricles. Then you're going to have the prostatic sinus, which runs along either side of the seminal colliculi, followed by the intermediate part. Now, the intermediate part is the narrowest part of the male urethra, and it is also very, very short. And it's going to run through the urogenital diaphragm, and then it is continued by the longest part of the urethra, the spongy urethra. Now, the spongy urethra has the ampulla and the navicular fossa. What is the ampulla? It's basically the lumen of the urethra is dilated, and it contains the opening of the excretory ducts from the bulbourethral glands. Then you have the navicular fossa. The navicular fossa is located within the glans penis, which is present down there. You can see the dilated part. And it is about 2 centimeters long, and it narrows to form the external urethral orifice. And that's about it. Going on further, we can talk about the neurovascular supply, blood supply, venous drainage, and lymphatic drainage. So the neurovascular supply is to the proximal and distal parts of the urethra. So proximal part would be the prostatic plexus from inferior hypogastric plexus. Then the distal part, the sympathetic innervation is via the prostatic plexus via the lumbar splanchnic nerve. The parasympathetic innervation is through the pelvic splanchnic nerves. The somatic of the spongy part is through the dorsal nerve of the penis. Then you have the blood supply. The blood supply again is broken into proximal and distal parts. The proximal part is supplied by the prostatic branches of the inferior vesicle and middle rectal arteries. The distal part is supplied by the branches of the dorsal artery of the penis. Then you have the venous drainage, again by the prostatic plexus and the branches of the dorsal vein of the penis. Then you have the lymphatic drainage. So the intermediate part is going to be drained by the intermediate iliac node, and the spongy urethra part is going to be drained by the deep inguinal lymph nodes. Now, finally, we have hypospadia. So, hypospadia is nothing but a birth defect that occurs where the urethral folds don't fuse completely. There are three possible locations for this hypospadia to occur, which is glandular, which is near the glans penis, the tip of the penis. You have the shaft, and then you have the scrotal hypospadia. And these conditions can be treated with surgery. Thank you.